The appraisal came in low. Your lender just called. Your agent just texted, and the number is real. Say $25,000 below the contract price on a $750,000 home in Linden Hills. Closing is in 2.5 weeks. Now what? I'm Brandyn.negri. I sell real estate in Minneapolis. And today we're walking through exactly what happens when a Minneapolis home appraisal comes in low. Your 5 real options: what works for sellers, what works for buyers, and how to make the decision without panicking. This is one of the most searched questions among Minneapolis buyers and sellers right now. I just published a deep dive blog on the same topic. The link in the description if you want the full version. First, why is this more common in 2026 than it was at the peak of the pandemic frenzy? There are 2 reasons. The first one, the market is shifting more towards neutral. Twin Cities inventory is up roughly 18% year over year. Days on market are running 45 to 52 days. And according to the recent Minneapolis Association of Realtors data, nearly 19% of active listings have seen price adjustments, the highest share for this time of year in over a decade. When list prices stretch past where comparable sales are actually closing, appraisers notice. So do the lenders. Secondly, Hennepin County micro markets like Lake Harriet, Lake of the Isles, Linden Hills, Kenwood, Cedar Lake have tight comparables. A high-end remodel on a smaller lot doesn't always have a recent comp that fully reflects the upgrades. When the data is thin, the appraisal will come in conservatively. That's not the appraiser doing something wrong. That's the data being very thin. When the appraisal comes in low, you have 5 real options, not theoretical. These are the moves that actually happen at the negotiating table. To start, the buyer brings cash to close the gap. The lender funds the loan based on the appraised value, but the contract price stays the same. This works when the buyer believes the home is worth it. They have the cash and doesn't want to lose the deal. Number 2, the seller drops the price to the appraised value. That's by far the cleanest path, but the seller takes the hit. In a market where days on market are climbing and price reductions are accelerating, more sellers are landing here than they did 1 year ago. 3, everyone, we're just going to split the difference. Most common middle ground for sure. On a $25,000 gap, the seller comes down 12.5, the buyer covers 12.5. Both sides give a little, requires some diplomacy and a clear-eyed read of how badly each party wants to close. 4, request a reconsideration of value, an ROV. This is a formal process where the borrower through the lender asks the appraiser to look at the data again. It's not a do-over. It's a request to reconsider with new evidence. A comp that closed last week, a corrected square footage, photos of renovations the appraiser may not have weighed properly. So ROVs work when there's real factual information. They don't work when the only argument is we need a higher number to make the deal pencil. Number 5, the buyer walks away using the appraisal contingency. The standard Minnesota Association of Realtors purchase agreement allows buyers to add an appraisal contingency. If it's there and the parties can't agree, the buyer cancels and gets their earnest money back. If the buyer waived the contingency to win in a multiple offer situation, that exit ramp is gone. Walking away likely means they will lose the earnest money. Now, if you're the seller, your first instinct is probably to push back. Sometimes that's right. Often it's not. The real question is, what's the next best alternative? If your home has been on the market 60 days, your next offer is likely to come in at or below appraised value anyway. Holding firm and losing this deal usually means relisting, more days on market, and either a similar number from the next buyer or a worse one comes to you. Here's what I tell sellers. Don't decide the first 5 minutes after you hear this news. Take a look at the appraisal report. See if there are factual errors worth challenging through an ROV. Run the math on what a $10,000 or $15,000 reduction does to your net proceeds versus what 30 more days or more on the market would cost you in carrying expenses, additional concessions on the next round, and the risk that the appraisal also comes in low. One alternative worth knowing: instead of a price reduction, offer a closing cost credit or a rate buy down equal to the gap. The headline sale price stays the same, which protects your neighborhood comparables, and the buyer still gets the financial relief. In a market where median buyer concessions are running around $5,000 already, this might be a clean fit. If you're the buyer, you have 3 questions to answer before you decide anything. 1, do you still believe the home is worth the contract price? The appraiser is one data point. If you've toured 15 homes and this one is meaningfully better, the appraised value might be conservative. If you fell in love after one showing and the comps don't really support it, the appraisal might be telling you something that is useful. Secondly, do you have the cash? If covering the gap means draining your reserves to nothing, that's a totally different decision than if you have flexibility. Closing costs, moving expenses, and immediate repairs all hit in the first 90 days. Don't go in this cash poor. 3, what does your contingency say? If you have an appraisal contingency and the seller won't budge, you walk with your earnest money intact. If you waived it to win the bidding war, you're either covering the gap or losing your earnest money. There's no third option. So, whether you're buying or selling, here's the playbook. Step 1, don't decide in the first hour. Let things calm down. The phone call feels like a 5-alarm fire. It usually isn't. Step 2, get the actual appraisal report and read it. Missed comps, factual errors, renovations, the appraiser didn't weigh in properly. Those are all real grounds for an ROV. Step 3, run the alternatives. See it on paper. For sellers, hold firm versus drop versus offer a credit. For buyers, cover the gap versus walk versus negotiate a middle ground. Step 4, pick the path with the fewest regrets attached, not the ones that feel best in the moment. The buyer who walks because they're frustrated and then can't find anything comparable for 3 months learns this lesson the hard way. So the seller who holds firm because the number should be higher and ends up dropping more later learns this lesson too. If your appraisal came in low and you're trying to decide what to do, this is exactly the conversation I walk my clients through. There's almost always a path forward, but the right path depends on the specific home, the specific contract that you signed, and where the market is that week. Friends, feel free to send me an email. I'll talk you through your situation for free. There's no pressure at all. If you want the deep dive read with all 5 options laid out, the seller side math, the legal scaffolding under the appraisal contingencies in Minnesota, the full blog link is linked in my description. For general real estate information from me, your Minneapolis agent, this is not legal advice. This is just based on what my experience is in the field. Friends, I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button.